Okay, welcome to the Old Moon Podcast. Yes, Jay, you should hit start. Episode 43. You were already live. You do this to me every time. All right, I am your host of Blue Squadron, joined as always with my co-host. We'll do Jacob.
Hi, my name is Jake and I'm an Awakening Musa main with 765 gear score. I do a lot of Endgame PvE content such as Olin's, the dungeons. I've been currently playing a lot of Monster Hunter, jumping on that Monster Hunter hub train. And you can find me over at twitch.tv/JakeandBTV before the T.
Let's go. Hey, you buddy. 43 episodes in, you're nailing it now.
It's
every
working.
time. I'm so proud of you.
We're doing it.
Right on. And my boy Blonde Bear.
Hello, it's me, Blonde Bear. I like to party and grind. Working on the LVI still. Nurturing as always. You can catch me at twitch.tv/blondebear.
Someday, Blonde, when we meet, we're going to go party. And by party, I mean we're probably going to sit down and play tabletop D&D, but
yes,
this is a party. This is a definition of a party. That's right.
That's a party.
All right. So there's a lot of stuff on the Global Labs this week, which makes it very spicy and fun to talk about. I'm very excited because my favorite grind spot is getting Dehkia, and that is Valencia. Well, my favorite grind spot is Histria, mainly because I grinded there for 4 years, and Stockholm Syndrome sets in after a while, right around year 2.5 or so. But we are getting Dehkia Valencia, which is super fun because you guys are both like professional PvEers and I am like artisan. You know what I mean? I'm getting there. I'll be honest with you. I've been on a grind arc lately. Aside from getting griefed out of my mind, I have been on a super grind arc lately. So I'm curious what your guys' thoughts on Dehkia Valencia. I'm excited that we got it this early. We'll start with Blonde.
You know, when I was watching the Heidel Ball, or sorry, Calpheon Ball, because I was at work that night, and then I come home and I'm looking at all the comments and posts. Everybody's like, "There's no way they're gonna get this content out in 6 months. No way!" And I'm like, "Y'all are doomering, bro. This is coming out every week. There's been another banger of a post. We got so much simplification, so much item stuff. We've already got some of the spot changes, and we've already got the new Dehkia spots coming out. Like what, next week, the week after, whatever. It's already on global. It's already being tested. It's already being done." It's out.
It's being tested
by the Koreans. By the Koreans. But hey, it's coming. It's real. I'm pumped. I'm very excited, and it looks good too. It looks good.
Oh wow. Okay, and honestly, I think it looks amazing because I get to do it. I think Scholar is going to be really good at Dehkia History. I think it's going to be a tremendous amount of fun. Jay, what do you think about it? Again, Lord of PvE.
I mean, I'm always down for grind spots that, you can, it's not like, like those grind spots where it's just like one hit and then you move on. Those never really appealed to me. And I've always been more so like the Olin's grinder where the bombs have a lot of HP, allows me to use the entirety of my kit, the majority of my kit for the most part. And it seems like from the clips that I saw, it is that kind of play style again, is you get to hit a big giant mob and get some great loot. So I'm excited for it. Yes,
it's not like super convoluted or complicated. I can just sit there. I don't have to go like around in a circle at all. I can just stand there and the Eltons just spawn and come to me. Plus, did you see how many Eltons? I assume you guys watched Hugh. Have you guys watched the Hugh?
Nuts.
Yeah, I have.
Bro,
yeah.
Oh my god, dude. I don't know what's wrong with me. To be honest, I saw those Eltons spawn and I started getting like a halfie, bro. Like I was like, oh my god.
I think there's an interesting design in grind spots where we have like a lot of people really like Olin's because we have these big boss monster style mobs that also have a large health pool, but also you want a horde of mobs too. You don't want like one mob and you're just like whacking at it. So like they nailed the dynamic of having a bunch of mobs and also one big mob, and also like that like they're nailing so many things, I think. And as long as it feels good and it looks good, it's gonna be pretty good.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. All right, you guys. Okay. As compass enjoyers ourselves, are you guys gonna go back? Look, I'm a part of this club, okay? Like I have a compass. I'm even grinding for my compass on EU. That's like the second that I had the opportunity to go back to history again and not grief myself, I immediately went back. And I grind there on EU basically all the time. I'll grind there on EU later tonight. What do you
think about the possibility of having an upgrade to the compass, like an upgrade to the archaeologist map, because they're adding Dehkia Valencia. You know, maybe the upgrade can be
That reduced the
simple as just reduce the cooldown. Yeah, I was about to say just like a simple upgrade like that, and that's another thing to strive for, right? Like regular Histria is, you know, the regular compass, right? Well, regular upgraded compass, and then Dehkia Valencia, we can strive for something more.
Right.
Even though they did add like Deboreka earrings to it, I thought the addition of Deboreka earrings to Dehkia Valencia was a little bit weird. I felt
thought that was
a little
weird
bit
too.
like it was like not in line and in theme with Valencia.
Right.
I always thought Deboreka earrings were like an Odalita Alma Sylvia thing, like the elf theme. I don't know. Just thematic wise, it was weird.
I think there's been a lot of feedback about people being forced to do a group grind just to finish their gear wheel, even though they could just pre-order it like everybody else in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that's coming from. I'm definitely not a fan of them taking something that is exclusively from a group grind spot and putting it in a solo spot. But I understand not everybody likes to have friends. Not everybody has friends, and not everybody wants to play with other players in an MMORPG. So as weird as that sounds, it's a real thing that a lot of people I've seen talk about, and you know, this is their way of sort of addressing that, I guess.
I would say that there is actually a fair amount of time when I log into the game and I just want to do my thing.
True.
You know what I mean?
agree.
And I don't necessarily want to include everyone else in that thing. You know, like I grinded like this morning. I say I woke up. I stayed up all night doing PvP like a gremlin on Arsha, trying to practice my witch. But then in the morning, I did like 3 hours on Scholar, got her to 63 at Gyphon, and I did not want to do a group grind session.
Yeah, I think
at that time. So like, I don't know. Like, there's an element of the game that like I completely understand. Players want to play by themselves, and like they don't necessarily want to be gate kept. My biggest thing about I love group grind. If you give me the option of group grind versus solo grind with my friends, obviously I'm gonna pick group grind the majority of the time. But like, there's also the fact that like I'm a degenerate and I play the game like way more than most of the other people. So like I don't want to like have to stop my progression because they left. Right? How frustrating is it at Olin's when like your third leaves and you're like, well,
yep.
You know what I mean?
I completely understand. That's why it's more of a personal preference that I'm not a big fan of it. But I understand for the large populace of the game, this is generally a good thing. There's a lot of people that don't want to go through the effort of making groups. They have all the elixirs. They have all the stuff. They might not just like Dehkia Valencia. Some people don't. Season's been whining about it for the last like 2 weeks to me. And I'm like, how? How do you not like it?
Wait,
but
Zane doesn't like Dehkia Valencia?
Yeah, I don't know. He went from doing it a lot, and now he's like, I don't know. I think he had a bad hour, and he's just like, I hate this spot now. I'm like, okay, well,
well, in fairness,
sucks.
he does play Hishashin, so he just wakes up with an L on his forehead.
Right, and that's I mean, that's
you know what I mean?
True. But
Yeah.
I think in general it's a good thing for the health of the game. I'm not a fan of, because what it does to me, my perspective is like you're taking something that exclusively has to be done in one spot, and now why would anyone, unless the drop rate's abysmal, go to Dehkia Valencia other than specifically to group grind? But then if you wanted to group grind and make money, there are other spots you'd want to go to, I guess.
Okay.
Why would you go there? Especially if you can get the compass, especially if you can get the regular accessories, and you're making good trash, and you're making the Debo, like it's just, and it's got the nostalgia built in, and it's my god. It's got
the nostalgia built in, is right, but like really it's only nostalgia for the people that got locked down there in a dungeon for like ever. Although, how long did it take you guys to get your compasses, Jay?
I got it way back in the middle of 2020. I started grinding for it in 2019. But you know,
how long did it take though?
Clear speed was a lot slower. I had never really tracked my hours in 2019 and 2020. I just know I started grinding history in 2019 and I got it in the middle of 2020. And so, and you know, I mean, clear speed was really slow, much slower back then. There was not as much Eltons. I think the Balton did not drop it yet until they added it later, if I'm not mistaken too. And so, not too sure on my is that the word efficacy?
Effective.
On
efficiency.
Efficiency.
Well, yeah, I mean, like let's talk about how easy they made it over the years. So like when it started, bro, it was only main rotation. There was no 7 Elton, right?
Yeah.
It was just main rotation. The Elton piece only dropped from the Elton. That's why we call it the Elton piece. There were no loot scrolls back in my day. There were no loot scroll, there was no tent, buff, there were no drop rate buffs. It was just your knowledge buff, basically. That's basically all there was. And so like the average hours for the compass was well into the 4 digits. For a lot of people, although I'll be honest, there were clips of streamers just walking and going, "What's this?" And, like killed an Elton and like got just picked up.
And then there's some streamers who have like 4 of them. That's not crazy.
Bro, it's
That's
actually
so crazy.
unfair.
Who would have that many?
Reportable offense. Okay. But like then they added, let's see, after a while they ended up adding 7 Elton because history actually became a popular grind zone. Because like when it first came out, no one went to history. Everyone thought it was, why would you do this spot? It's just stupid. You could just do sauces, bro.
Yes.
Like why the hell would you ever do this? And then people realized, oh, you can pull the mobs together, bro. Like it was crazy. It was like this realization by the community that like you could pull all the mobs together and then like actually kill them efficiently. And then as the gear score average went up, it became more and more popular. Mystic came out, and 98% of the population was playing Mystic at Histria. And so they introduced 7 Elton. 7 Elton was like this expansion to Histria. And the reason we call it 7 Elton is because originally it only had 7 Eltons on it. Again, the Elton piece only dropped from Eltons. But then they added the Elton piece could then drop from Boltons as well. And that was a big change. It made it a lot easier to get at this point. Loot scrolls were in the game. You had tent buffs. Drop rate buffs were in the game. Choice put out an amazing video about like how long it takes to get your compass based on like what your drop rate is, etc., etc. And so like the average time to get the compass goes down dramatically. Then they added an event at Histria where like this pillar spawns, and if you kill the pillar, like 10 Eltons spawn, and you can kill all 10 Eltons. And like obviously this dramatically increases your chances per hour for the Elton piece, which is a lot of fun. That it still took me 4 years to get it, but like but it did happen, and like all of this stuff was implemented into the game. It's way easier to get the piece now, and to say easier, it's still one of the hardest things to get in the entire game. It still takes probably a player about 300 hours on average currently, although with the Dehkia Histria coming out, I actually think that you're gonna kill less Eltons at Dehkia Histria than you will at normal Histria, just because you're killing them way slower. Way slower.
But they've increased the drop rates every time they do one of these spot revamps too.
Big true.
With the LBI and also the nurturing piece. So that could be the math they do to fix that.
Yeah. I don't know. So like we talked a lot about Dehkia Histria here, and we're very excited about that. And that's gonna be where I'm gonna go to grind. I'm hoping it's a lot of money. But you know what? Lately, Dehkia Turos has been kind of popping off. If you guys noticed this, they buffed it, and it is crazy now. It's like the best, silver per hour in the game, I think, right now. I mean, people are reporting crazy numbers. Have you guys tried it?
I have, yeah.
I have not done it yet, but I've heard.
Okay, so Jakun, you've tried it.
You need a friend.
True, you do need a friend.
We need a solo Turos. Mechanic, right? We need, and they also need to add Deborahkas to it. You know, just kidding.
Please no.
Yeah, honestly, like I think that it's better than Olin's, right? Like Jay, you've done both, right? Which one do you feel is better?
I have. I mean, money wise, definitely Turos, but it doesn't draw Deborahkas, so I'm not going there.
That is fair. It's really. The reason he's not telling you is because it's not a giant rock trying to hit him.
It's not a giant rock.
It's crazy.
It's just a cow. I do like milking cows though. For money.
I used to milk cows for money in Grana, but I think it was in a different way than what you were talking about. Yeah, necessarily speaking. Now, are either of you excited for Dehkia Achman?
I was never the biggest fan of Achman, I'm not gonna lie.
Not as much as Histria.
Yeah, you can't make me go there, bro. There ain't no way.
No.
Yeah,
just not a fan.
Yeah, like we know that the compass is gonna drop from both places, but like let's be honest, the history piece is way rarer, and that's the one that everyone is gonna need. So that's where everyone's gonna go. I'm curious if they're actually gonna make Achman more money. It's kind of a trade-off.
The Debo only drops from history, right?
No,
drops from both.
Drops from both.
Maybe they'll make Achman drop it more often because it'll be like, well, I don't know if it's necessarily unpopular amongst everyone. I just know that because the compass, but there's a lot of people that back in the day I know that really liked Achman a lot. So this might be their sort of resurgence, but
Yeah.
I imagine they would balance it decently.
Okay.
Hopefully.
I am triggered out of my mind right now. I'm sorry. This makes me angry. So, Scholar got the Karlstein outfit this week, right? And the hammers on that outfit look incredible. So I was like, okay, I'm going to craft those hammers because I have those intricately patterned mythical shards. That make the Karlstein. So I went through this big long. Bro, the quest line took me like over half an hour, which
takes you quite a bit, yeah.
Oh, it took a lot of time, man. I hate questing. So I went through the whole quest line. It was very frustrating. And I crafted it. I got it done. The box is in my inventory. I go to open it. Class restricted. They forgot.
Oh no, they haven't updated
They didn't put
God.
the Karlstein in the game for Scholar for the crafting it, bro. I'm being free
Surely
to play.
it'll be this week.
I just tried to open it. It didn't work. I am so frustrated.
Oh
my
no.
God. I'm going to Sam's right now. You think I won't? But yeah, I'm sorry. That really frustrated me.
That's irritating.
Are there any spots? So are we also getting Dehkia Pilaku and Sulfur?
No, I think it was the only thing on the global was going to be Achman and Histria, and I think those are going to be coming later.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, those will be coming later. Those will be really interesting too.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they made Dehkia for treasure spots, and also that they skipped Medaya. Do you guys think that they're literally just gonna rework the? They'd
have to redo Medaya because Valencia was the true grind rotation, other than Sausins. Sausins and Helms maybe were the only things that had a rotation, but nothing else in Medaya was really in a decent pack to pack spot. Now they've changed the spots over the years to make it kind of like that now, but nothing originally was like that. And Valencia was one of the first now you have actual rotations of circles that you're gonna go in. So I'm curious if they're gonna do a full Medaya revamp, because it just doesn't make sense to change that zone. I know there's a lot of people that have shared the opinion that they want a sort of World of Warcraft Cataclysm, where they just fucking mow over all of Medaya and just redo everything as if something just erupted out of the ground. And I'm really curious.
Yeah, I mean, my copium is that there's gonna be some big wipeout event, and we are gonna completely change the landscape, the main quest line, all
Lesser Day of Darkness 2.0.
Yeah, we're gonna have relevant grind spots for new and veteran players alike. It's gonna be wonderful, because right now Medaya looks like the odd man out, dude. It looks outdated across the board. They just skipped it and went straight to Valencia, which was strange to me. Do you think that they'll give Medaya an Elvia, or do you think they'll give it a Dehkia?
That's something interesting I want to talk about. I didn't think they'd do Dehkia for it doesn't make sense for the lore. I thought they'd do something completely different. For specifically Valencia, I thought they were going to do something like demonic, since north of the Valencia is the Alieli, the demon zone. I thought that's what they were going to tie lore specific to. Them automatically just adding Dehkia and saying, okay, this is the way it's going to be. And I think it's because they don't want to make you have 5 different lanterns that spawn in 5 different zones. I get for simplicity's sake. But it's a way to regulate the accessory market as well. That's the whole point of these things. So I don't know. I'm really curious what the thought process was on that, because I didn't think it made sense.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, and Blonde, you're the lore buff, right? Isn't Elvia no Khafras? I forget what's going on with the Elvia.
Elvia is specifically so in the timeline lore. Belmorn / Jordan, the possessed guy, he after Mountain of Eternal Winter, he goes and creates the Elvia zones. He brings those to our realm. That's why we have those Elvia realm areas where all these monsters are revamped. He brings that to us, curses the land or whatever. So that's specifically tied to the elves and everything. The Dehkia lantern is something specifically tied to Odalita inherently. I can't remember specifically the Dehkia lore, but it's something with one of their gods. There's 50 of them. So them taking all the way to Valencia just is very separated from that. I really don't understand that thought process.
Yes,
That didn't make sense.
really weird. Jay, do you feel like it deserved like Dehkia, or do you like Elvia?
Well,
do you have a preference?
I don't mind the direction they went with using the Dehkia mechanic again. I know from a lore standpoint that it doesn't really make too much sense that because I always thought it was always just tied to like the elf stuff, right? The what are they called? The deer and the Ganel. I thought that was, you know, that was tied to them. And then
Every
they,
time you say
they
Ganel,
somehow
I
tied
think of
it
like
to
a gazelle.
Gazelle.
That's every
The
time.
gazelle and the Vadir, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Vadir, you got
got it.
gazelle. Oh my
You
god,
nailed it.
okay.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do know that there's a lot of players who just, you know, they don't care about the lore and they just want that game mechanic. And maybe PA is just focusing on that. They just want to put that game mechanic in, and that maybe that's making more people happy than, you know, making the lore people happy.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't mind sacrificing some of the game immersion in order to make the game more fun for everybody, and maybe that's what the game needs right now.
I think that's cope.
So I don't mind.
And that's exactly what
Respectfully, no shot. Because, bro, Jay, in favor of fun, they will not sacrifice immersion. They literally said as much when they said you can't have druid because we can't have tigers riding around Belia. It would break immersion with the goddamn airship flying over our heads. Okay. And also like the gasming
Jay's
hentai
changing his
girl on all the
ways.
flags. You know what I mean? Because the guild that
he
owns
said he's changing his
Belia
ways
is-
though.
I don't know,
Right?
man. Like, maybe we'll get a druid. Honestly, I think that if you pulled the player base, I think that there are probably more players that copium that want like a druid class or a shape-shifting class than want a gunner class. Like, I don't know where they got the idea that they needed a gunner class, but it is what it is.
I think it's very popular on the Korean side of the community, I think.
I don't know, man. Like,
Because they have a gunner in everything, and like gunner's like a very, very popular class in a lot of other games. I mean,
guess.
specifically Lost Ark, there's a lot of, at least the streamers I know that play a lot of the gunner classes.
Yeah, I suppose so. Let's talk a little bit about the scholar art today. I know normally we don't stop to address it, but it's incredible, right? Jay, can you explain a little bit how you found it and like what it won, right?
Yes. So the scholar art contest, you know, every time there's a new class, they had a Wusa art contest, they had a Megu art contest, and you know, now it's, you know, the scholar art contest, and this is the person that won. Trinus. I don't want to say this. Trinus. Okay, I'll just say, is it Trinus? Triatus? I don't know. It's just
Not Trianus. Oh my god.
It's a beautiful. They're very talented. I love this art. It's great. It's great. It's a reference to the Lo-Fi Girl. If you guys have seen the Lo-Fi Girl, thing.
Like, yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing because it really emphasizes Scholar's lore, and I would do amazing things if we could get like, I would love like class outfits that were more like that kind of emphasize the fact that she's like an intellectual. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's
That'd be
super,
really cool.
super cool. And I think the reason it won, I mean, you got the hammer on the desk there. I mean, the detail going on in this, you know, and she's studying, which is really cool. It's a very cool, it's like
genius.
a physics thing. Yeah, it's like a physics thing, and she's not necessarily combat oriented. I just think that's just a super sick art. And again, I looked at a lot of the art because I like Scholar an unreasonable amount. Like I'm a big fan of this class. Like Jay got to Wusa and was like, "This is my thing," right? Like you were like, "This is my calling. This is my class." This is kind of how I feel for Scholar. I'm a big fan. And so like I really enjoy that Scholar art. I'll probably have Moshi make me some Scholar art here soon as well. So
that's the way to go.
Yeah, I did want to touch on that a little bit before we moved on to our next topic, was which Jay originally brought up. Yeah, like so this is so yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, so I chose this topic because I get sometimes people in my chat saying that, you know, because no content, it's dying. And I try to explain all these like recent changes, especially like the quality of life stuff we've been getting, and then they rebuttal with, we should have had this stuff a long time ago. It shouldn't have taken this long. The low hanging fruit and it has been changed so long when it's like a simple change. And this got me really thinking, and thought it was an interesting discussion. Like I even went to like review Marlon's video on why he quit video, and it got me to research a little bit more on this topic. And to a certain extent, I kind of think they're a little bit right, and it makes me wonder, like, are quality of life changes for the game, is it content, or is it the result of the devs trying to fix poor game design? And for me, I think it's like a little bit of both. Like sometimes quality of life is born out of necessity. Sometimes there's a mechanic that isn't as fun as people thought, and it's like an unintended consequences of something that first initially made sense and now it doesn't. And also sometimes the game has changed so much that old mechanics don't work as well anymore. And I think a good example of this is simply fast travel. Like I think the devs first intended for players to manually travel around to make the game more immersive, but the world of BDO has gotten it's doubled, tripled since the launch of the game. So it's been really cumbersome to just manually travel.
BDO is big.
Than the immersive, right? Yeah, it's really big.
Yeah.
And so we got the Magnus as a result, and I consider the Magnus as content to do in the game. But yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting discussion, and I'm curious, what do you guys think? Are quality of life changes content, or is it the result of the devs trying to fix poor game design?
Vaughn, I'll let you go first.
I think it depends on who you ask. If you're asking a doomer, they're gonna make any excuse to be like, "Oh, PA bad. They're not adding content. They're doing this. This is garbage. They should have done this a long time ago, and we should also be getting other stuff." I can see that perspective. I get it. I agree that, for example, updating content when like old content gets phased out, like something that still hasn't been buffed or adjusted, like Yaros, that. There's no reason that, or life skilling, or hunting for these furnitures that now everybody's bought out in the market. There's no reason that PA can't look at market trends and then adjust accordingly. The biggest problem is that different regions play differently. Like if you look at EU's market compared to NA, it's very, very different. So in some cases, like that quality of life isn't really content, more so adjustment. But I think that because PA has however many developers working on it, I think it's kind of a tough decision to say whether or not it is or isn't content, because like constantly updating something like that means that maybe some like you'd have to have devs specifically for that part, which on our side looks easy because we're just playing the game, but I don't know what it looks like from a coding perspective. But I think that it depends on the style too. Like updating stuff like that is like maybe pushing some numbers around that isn't as complex as creating a whole new design of like the history of Grindspot. I think that is good content. I mean, as much as people don't want to call grinding content, I think that that's like good. I think that's like real content, even though it's quality of life. I think that adjusting numbers is a little bit different, but I don't know. I think I agree with your point when you said that like as the world expands more and more and we get faster and faster, there's a certain point where we have to go back to super simplification or just like what makes sense. It doesn't make sense to have to go to a well, to have to go to Land of Morning Light, travel between 5 different bosses, then run all the way back to the only well in the continent that's all the way at the beginning, and then teleport back. You're taking something that the bosses take roughly 10 minutes to do all 5 if you do a 2-minute to 3-minute clear time. Turning it into a 30-minute to an hour adventure, depending on how fast your horse is or if you're auto-pathing or whatever. And I don't think that adds to the gameplay, right? They've super simplified even the dungeon stuff to where now you don't even need to do the pre-quest. Now you don't need to do this. And I like it being... You don't even need the key anymore. I like that it starts out hard because the players that are interested in that have a longer experience and it's not over quickly. If you had the current dungeons out now, right when the dungeon came out, I think that it's not as rewarding to put the work in to get the thing out of it, of the experience, versus everything being like instant now and instant gratification. Like I'm not a big fan of that. I like something taking work to get into and then you getting out that value, not just in not just in raw silver or whatever currency or whatever, but the value of the time and the experience. I think that's important. Yeah, sorry, that was kind of long-winded, but
no, you're good.
No, you're good.
I 100% think that quality of life updates are content, mainly because if Blizzard can release the exact same game with the exact same patches again as content, right? As World of Warcraft Classic, then updating the current game in almost any capacity also counts as content. It doesn't necessarily count as new content, but like I would still argue that it also still counts as new content. A good example of this, I'll just take an extreme: the marketplace. The central marketplace back in the day was basically this unusable mess of a marketplace. It's just a ridiculous gatekeeping like all the time. And then when they updated the marketplace, it made the game so much more playable and so much more fun. So like it depends, I suppose, on what you would call content per se, but like anything that would like bring players back to the game, or a player would enjoy as like kind of a newer experience, I think does count as content. And I think that basically every time they do a quality of life update, it absolutely counts as content. Maybe it's not as flashy and spicy as like other new content we might get, like an expansion or a new class, but like it still counts, in my opinion, absolutely. Because we get, like, honestly, quality of life updates can be so big, and if they didn't do them, or they like people didn't care, they wouldn't do them, right? So like yeah. Sorry, I'm like logging in, trying to make a seasonal. I graduated my seasonal on EU to make a scholar, so I could play scholar on EU too.
I also think that like changing things and adding quality of life to something can also be an avenue for new content that you've never explored. For example, I always wanted to do boat content, but it's a chore to get into, and I don't really want to put the time into doing like all of that initial boat building. I'd like to just get the boat and then do the content. Because something like, you know, versus the dungeons, I'd like it to be hard and annoying to get into. I don't know. There's certain things you want it to be hard, some things you want it to be easy because maybe the value of your time isn't worth it or into it or whatever. But like them doing quality of life on something adds new content for me or for someone else. There's friends that I had that were PvPers for a very, very long time, and now that like grinding is good and there's so much quality of life, they're now getting into parts of the game they would have never gone into. So like content of the game they never experienced are now parts of the game that they're getting into because of the quality of life. So like inherently, yeah, quality of life isn't like raw content or new or whatever, but like it adds an avenue to get into that content if you were never into it in the first place. Like adding money to life skills or like even the new tools for life skills adds that avenue that wouldn't have been explored in the first place, right? And I think that I mean, you could say it's not literal content, but if you're getting into something you were never into, that's content, baby. Like
it's new content for you.
You're right. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that like yeah, I mean, like I think that just overall quality of life updates are so just fundamentally important to the game, and like I think that for every single game you constantly have to do that so that players,
it's main staple,
have a better experience playing your game. If the game didn't ever change its old content, then I don't know if any of us, let's be honest, we would be playing, but like it would just be the three of us in this call right now, and that would be it. There would be no one else on the server. So okay, right on. Like I know that Jay, you kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit. Now Jay, there is another subject in here that you wanted to talk about, the Deboraka accessory availability.
Why do you keep calling it Deboraka? It's Deboraka.
Oh my god, it's not Leviosa. It's Leviosa.
It's not Deboraka. It's Deboraka.
Deboraka.
So annoying. Fucking raccoon. Anyway, so the Deboraka accessories availability. Honestly, you want a hot take? I feel like the necklace is the hardest of the three to get, and the other two are kind of a joke.
Really?
I feel like it's kind of a joke. I feel like the necklace, trying to get a pen necklace has got to be the hardest of the three by far.
Are you talking about drop rate specifically or grind spot specifically? Like
just as far as like getting the necklace goes, right? Like the necklace only drops from Ash, right? And Ash sucks. There's a reason people call it Ass Forest.
I
think
some people meme and call it Cash Forest, but like, I
feel like it's okay. I'm on the opposite. I feel like the necklace is the easiest
The
to get.
easiest one to get.
For me, because grinding Dehkia Olens, I personally think Crypt and Dehkia Olens are harder to grind. That's why I guess Blonde was asking, like, is it like grind wise, or is it like drop rate wise? Because I do agree that the earring and the belts have like higher drop rates than the necklace, but the like regular Ash Forest is like kind of a joke nowadays. It's like they're so squishy. I know. So
chilling and grinding.
I think it's a lot. It's like more.
I love it
because
the
it's
700
accessibility.
and like 65 gear score player.
Well,
It's such a joke.
Okay, I grinded for the Deborahkas back in 2020. Okay, I got a Ted Deborahka back in 2020, and I only had like 300 and like 50 DP. I had just the duo Fallen God, I think, was, you know, when Odalita first released, and it was like it wasn't even that bad. Still, it was hard, but it wasn't that bad. Now it's like we've pretty much conquered Ash Forest now. But I also
you don't like it,
that's
fine too.
Yeah, you don't like it. Yeah,
I get that.
That's your opinion.
I don't like Crypt. I think Crypt is the worst one because I love group content and I love Ash Forest.
I think Crypt is ass.
How in that's the first, like
more like crap the resting thoughts.
Crap the resting thoughts. Freaking Blonde.
How do you guys think Crypt is the worst one? It's like that's the easiest one based on what everyone has told me. Like that's the belt is like a joke. You just go there unless you get really RNG like screwed.
Okay,
like
so
drop rate wise, it is really good. That's true.
Maybe because when I grinded for my belt, it was technically the harder version of Crypt when I was going for belt.
Yeah,
and then they did make it easier. I do think it's a lot easier nowadays in both like time wise, because I grinded it back in 2021, and back, you know, we didn't have as much gear in 2021. The evasion of the mobs were like so giga cracked. It was so hard to gear for it. And that's why maybe my experience for me personally was a harder experience than nowadays, where you have so much more gear. They reduced the evasion or the accuracy required for it. And they've buffed the drop rate now. Like they've improved the income as well. And so maybe my experience is why I feel the way I feel about why Crypt is, I feel like Crypt is harder than Ash. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, how do you guys feel about the current drop rate for Debo accessories? I feel like
after the update, it's good.
Yeah, like I feel like it's like way easier, except for again the necklace. I feel like the necklace is still like you have to go to Ash, and it sucks.
There is an argument to be made of whether or not it's a good thing that they increase the drop rates. Like obviously most players initial reaction, of course it's good that they increase the drop rates because that means I get more debos and I get out of there faster and I can hit my pen quicker. Okay, cool, but it used to be like this Endgame legendary accessory that like one guy on the server had, and it was like insane, right? That has now turned into, okay, your next gear path progression is going to be getting 3 tent debos because the set bonus is so worth it versus the AP caps because of this and that and this and that. And now it's like, now they're buffing the drop rate so much and they're getting rid of the side material to make it. I agree on a whole level of like forcing the player base to funnel into buying crons, which is kind of like what you've always done, but now you need crons for your accessories, now you need crons for your fallen god, now you need crons for your black star. Before, people kind of used to raw tap their stuff, and now it's not really as much anymore. Now I think the meta is shifting back to if the drop rate's good enough and you spend enough time grinding there, you might just raw tap, maybe up to try or tet, maybe not pen, because the EU market doesn't get costumes, and I think the NA's feeling it right now where some people are not feeling too hot on their costume buying. I mean, there was a period of time where you could not grind enough money to buy costumes, and at least on NA, and now I feel like it's kind of like hitting the other end of that, where now we're reaching, like, you know, I've been sitting on a lot of money and I can't get a costume to save my life. It's been like 3 days since a pre-order, you know what I mean? So I think that's the direction PA is moving in, because maybe they want to phase in a new set of stuff. I don't know why they would make it so easy if they weren't thinking of phasing in a new set of stuff, or if they really just want to make it so simple that, you know, that's not the thing. Like, getting the gear isn't the problem. It's just having fun and doing whatever you want and grinding, right? I don't know what the philosophy is, because obviously they don't state it. They just said, you know, they do their little dev statements,
that's what
whatever.
I wanted to get into is, if do we like that Deborahkas are gonna be like the best in slot? Because I'm kind of on the fence about them making they seem to be pushing that, right? They seem to be pushing that Deberekas are going to be your best in slot for everything, because they added a 3-set bonus. Before there was no 3-set bonus, so you could make an argument that, hey, you know, maybe I want to swap out this Debereka slot for an accuracy accessory slot. But now they added this 3-set bonus that just like pushed it further, that it seems like it doesn't feel like you should go for anything else other than Deberekas,
because
and
it's so worth it price wise.
So worth it. Yeah.
And everybody's grinding them and enhancing them for profit. So why wouldn't you just buy it? It's just sitting there. The belts and necklaces are just sitting there.
And I think it takes away a lot of like choice when you're getting pushed into this best in slot. At least with the Fallen God tier armors, you get to choose between like an evasion variant or DR variant. And before, like, the accuracy and evasion accessories were in line with the regular AP accessories, and then Deberekas came out and were super power creeped versions of the AP accessories, to the point where, again, well, it's like kind of like the only choice. But if I think maybe in terms of the direction they should go for accessories, like, I don't know if they should just add, I don't know, a Debereka version, like a power creeped version of the previous accessories, like of DP, accuracy, and evasion to keep up with Debereka's. But I feel like the easiest way would maybe to add cups, and maybe the cups would add that variety of choice. Yeah. And so like the current ones are kind of boring, right? It's DP and AP. That's it, right? But it would be interesting to see more like utility and cups, maybe like HP on hit, ignore resist, maybe some tertiary stats like max BSR or BSR regen, or maybe, I don't know, like a set bonus for cups. So there's an incentive for running matching cups on your accessories, you know? And one more interesting idea I had was maybe class specific cups, like maybe, using this cup would reduce the cooldown of Voltaic Pulse by 1 second, or maybe it would add an extra hit, or I don't know, you could be crazy or add a CC, add a protection, I don't know. But I think they could do something really interesting with essentially an enchanting system for accessories, and maybe that could be a way to add variety, than just, you know, pushing just full AP monkey, just Debereka's end of the story. Maybe Fallen God tier accessories, I don't know, but I'm on the fence about it.
Honestly, this segued very perfectly into like our last like thing. Thank you, Jay. Cleanly done. Into end game build options, because I feel like there's very clearly one specific end game build that is like just objectively better than everything else. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, you know what? I'm curious. Obviously we all know that there's no options on the Dead God pieces. You just go with the Dead God armor set, whether you're evasion or DR, that's the only choice you make, and that's it. Which I think is stupid. But that set aside, look over at the accessories. Okay? What do you guys think is the best 6-slot accessory right now? Because I think there's really only one option for like super endgame builds. But I'm curious, Blonde, let's see what your take is first.
If you, well, like, it kind of varies, right? Obviously the 3-set Deba is going to be your main staple, and then you rotate, probably you have accuracy rings if you're going for accuracy, or you would go like a narc and then cadres if you're more DR option leaning. It just depends on what side of that you're leaning. I think
okay, so far so good. Jay, how do you feel about it?
PvE wise, I'm seeing people run 3-set pen Debos, 1 pen Disto or Vaha, and then 2 pen Tungrads, and that actually perfectly sits you if you're running like a Blackstar offhand at 330 AP,
and you
which
say
is
PvE?
a bracket. You're just I said PvE wise.
In general, you need accuracy for PvE as well, so it's not like it's going to be any different. So like the only variation at all, we are down to exactly 1 earring slot. Your choice is exactly 1 earring slot, because you have the 3 Debos automatically, right? Pen Debo neck, Pen Debo belt, 1 Pen Debo earring. And then you have to go double Pen Ominous rings, because you, like, most players don't have the accuracy they need. And by most players, I mean everyone. Even if you're playing a Sage, they still go double Ominous ring, because that's where, like, that's the most cost efficient way if you're fitting in 3 Debos to fit in accuracy in your build. And then the only thing that I see players split on is the earring slot. Whether you go, Yeah, like whether you go Disto,
Narc or
well, you go
Disto.
Disto, Narc, or Dawn. I think that personally, I think that as we progress through the game, I think the Dawn Earring's actually just gonna take over, because like I think we're just gonna keep getting, it will just keep giving us AP. Right, they're just gonna keep giving us AP, whether it be through journals or doing, hey, you did another quest line, congratulations. You know what I mean? Like we're just gonna keep getting stats in that regard, and so like eventually you're gonna be able to hit all the major brackets with that Dawn Earring on. And I think that just having the double, or like the Dawn with the double ominous ring will basically just be the W. But like, I don't know, how do you guys feel about trending towards this kind of metagame where we're basically just everyone's running the same gear?
It depends on your perspective of the game. I like not having too much variation. I think that it's already tough enough to have a game where classes are so fundamentally different, and we have 2 sets of every class, Awakening and Succession, and then on top of that adding player skill, and then on top of that adding whatever the server problems, desync, whatever lag, you know, whatever, if your computer has 300 FPS versus 50 FPS. I think that there's so many of those levels that you have to already get past, that then adding, oh man, this guy just happens to be an evasion player and I don't have an accuracy build yet, so I just lose because the game decided variation, and
so
this
annoying,
guy that I just happen to fight happens to be evasion. I don't like that, but I do like the way that specifically AOS works, where if I just want to run a heavy DR build, okay, I'm going to go in with a DR build. Oh, if I just want to run an AP build, I'm going to run an AP build. So I personally, my personal opinion, I don't like diversity, because I think that the classes are already diverse enough to have that in the game for us. But I understand there's a lot of players that do like diversity, so that if they want to run some weird build that's super this or super that, then they can run it, and that's an option for them. I think it would be easier and more simplified for PA to balance if we didn't have evasion specific items and it was all just DR, and then there were some classes that had evasion that would add to their tankiness, and the game could then be balanced around that. But instead we have like DR and evasion classes, and then like now you like have to go DR evasion, and then some people do some weird stuff where they're not going whatever the meta is for their class and throws people off. It's kind of like a rock paper scissors guessing game where you're not always ready for kind of combat, because in the middle of your you know, someone ganks you, and then you try to hit them, you don't deal any damage. Okay, now you got to run into the forest, equip this, and then you can go back and fight him. And then you're clicking on your accessory because it won't equip because you're still in combat. And then finally it equips, but he's already got you, and then you're dead. And it's just like, okay, stupid.
That was a very specific situation.
It is what it is. It's exactly what happens.
Yeah, he's mad. Yeah, he's mad.
It's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
But again, that's just my personal opinion. I don't know if that's the best thing for the game. I know a lot of people love the diversity in the game. I know a lot of people don't like to feel pigeonholed into a specific build every time. Some people don't like doing the cookie cutter build, and have that little bit of variation, I think, is important in games. So I don't know if it's the best thing for the game. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I like build diversity. Now, I will say that I like that they standardized it among like the armor set. Okay, sure. You pick DR, you pick evasion, you only have one path there. But I do think that at some point you need to allow people to diverge. So the game needs to be simple enough that a new player can understand what they need to do without having all of these choices, right? Because they're already overwhelmed at the start of the game trying to understand the systems. They shouldn't also be overwhelmed trying to figure out, okay, well, I need to pick this Uragon shoes, because like if I don't pick Uragon shoes, I'm just screwed, you know what I mean? Like I just picked the wrong build path, right? So like it needs to be simple enough that a new player can understand it, but at the end of the build path it needs to allow for enough diversity that an end game like veteran player has the freedom to choose, in my opinion. So like I don't know, it's kind of a delicate balance. I do not think we're there right now. I think right now we're like really far from it. Like I think that adding like or the accessory like enchantments, and I say the word enchant most of the time. People use the word enchant in BDO, they're talking about enhancing, but no, I mean like actually enchanting your accessories with like the cups. That was good. I think that was good. That was a good upgrade, and like I think they need to have more options for cups.
I think by the time because you mentioned like new players, like sorry for interrupting, but you mentioned like new players, you know, you don't want to confuse them in the beginning. That's good. that we direct them in a very clear way. But then by the time they get to end game, they should have understand the basics and understanding of the mechanics of the game enough to be able to start making their own new choices. And that's why I want these more like variations in the end game area, because again, the players should by that point understand how the game works, how the mechanics are, what they want for their class, what kind of play style they want to play for their class, as opposed to as a newer player.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah. Okay. We are running a little short on time here, boys. We did start a little later though, so it's okay. But we can wrap it up with the closing thoughts here. Into the final moment. So Jay, why don't you lead us off with closing thoughts here? What's the thing you're most excited about right now?
I'm excited for the new grind spawns. I like grinding. I like PvE content. Give me some more PvE content. I'm hoping that maybe the direction they go with endgame PvE would be the potential eventual direction of possibly raids and more dungeons in the future. Copium. But yeah, those are my closing thoughts. You can hold my hand over at twitch.tv/JKNVTV before the T.
That's right. All right. And Blonde, what are you most excited about in the game right now?
Well, the upcoming change for the Magnus travel, and also getting the ability to do your boss splits. Being able to do that, because that's added with the Magnus as well. That'll be on Wednesday, so you guys can make sure to grab your red quest and do that. I'm excited mostly about that, because as much as I love Land of the Morning Light and the way it looks, I don't like having to go over there just for 5 minutes and then leave. So that's not my favorite thing, but I do like the area. I really hope there's some grind spots in the new part of it, Land of the Morning Light 2, because it's just a shame. But yeah, you can catch me at twitch.tv/blondebear. I won't be going to the new spots until I finish what I got to do. So, I got a job to get done.
Sure, I can finish it tonight. Let's go.
I've been on a grind arc too, man. I've been kind of going hard lately. And I am Blue Squadron. There's always something going on this channel. I think that the thing I'm most excited for is obviously Dehkia Histria, as like literally the poster child for Histria. Bro, nobody else, no other streamers really are really known for Histria like that. But boy, and honestly, people haven't seen me grind History in a long time, but they will. They will see. Then they'll see. They'll all see. Anyway, there's always something going on this channel. We are not done today. As always, we will have the patch note rundown and some grinding for sure coming up here for you. But there's always new YouTube videos every single day. There's always also helpful guides and stuff coming out all the time. As far as the Old Moon podcast goes, we are here so we alternate, guys, because of Blonde Bear's schedule, so you can report him. We do it every Tuesday and then Thursday. So this week it happened on Tuesday. The podcast will happen on Thursday next week because he has a bi-weekly schedule. And so this week it happened on Tuesday. So again, every time the podcast comes out, it's always up on my YouTube just a few hours typically after the podcast airs, and then it's always up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just make sure you guys drop a follow and subscribe there. So from all of us here at the Old Moon podcast, have a great rest of your week, guys.